25/8 is in the business of time. We help leaders of small and medium-sized businesses work smarter, not harder, so they feel like they have an extra hour in the day and day in the week. Go from don't know what I don't know to I can't miss this show, as we talk proven strategies, practical tips and insider insights from a diverse range of industry leaders. Make time to grow your capabilities and confidence with 25/8. There's something that has been both a blessing and a curse to small businesses, and it's one I've been involved in for quite some time. It's filled with jargon and acronyms and shrouded in mystery. Some things work, some things don't, and it constantly changes. This makes it really difficult to keep up, and it helps those who know what they're doing be able to charge lots of money to unsuspecting people. In fact, one of the businesses on the Next Level Growth Program last year was paying for a service over $100 that they didn't need at all, and it wasn't generating anything of value for their business. This is one of my biggest bugbears, and one of the reasons I started my own business in 2015. What am I talking about here? Digital marketing. Welcome to this week's episode of Make Time. Today, I want to explore something that almost every business has invested time into, yet very few feel confident about. Digital marketing, more specifically, the difference between being visible online and building something that consistently brings customers into your business. I'm your host, Sam, and I'm passionate about helping you and your business thrive by working smarter, not harder, and welcome to this week's episode. Many business owners have put in the effort. They have a website, they post on social media, and they may have even experimented with paid advertising. From the outside, it looks like progress. It looks like momentum, and yet behind the scenes, there is often a different experience. Leads can feel inconsistent, inquiries can be unpredictable, it can feel like a lot of effort for uncertain return. And that tension usually comes back to one thing. There's a gap between having a digital presence and having a digital strategy. If you open your laptop or scroll through your phone, you'll see small businesses everywhere doing their best to show up online. There are posts being shared, websites being updated, ads being tested, and content being created regularly. There isn't a shortage of activity, and especially with AI, it feels like there is a lot more content. What is less visible is whether that activity is connected to a clear understanding of how customers are actually found and converted. A business can be active across multiple platforms and still not be clear on which of those platforms are contributing to revenue. It can feel productive while remaining disconnected from outcomes. This is where many businesses find themselves not lacking effort and not lacking tools, but lacking clarity. What does the research tell us? Well, this pattern is reflected in broader research across the small business sector. Work from Deloitte has shown that while many small businesses have adopted digital tools, confidence in using these tools effectively remains relatively low. In particular, there's often uncertainty around which activity are actually driving results. At the same time, insights from the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission Digital Platform Services Inquiry highlight how dependent small businesses have become on digital platforms to reach customers. That reliance continues to grow, even when capability has not kept pace. When those two trends sit alongside each other, a clear picture begins to form. Access to digital tools is no longer the barrier it once was. The challenge has shifted to understanding how to use those tools with intention. Where businesses invest in building that capability, the outcomes tend to follow. Across small business programs and regional initiatives, improvements in conversion rates of 20 to 40% are not unusual when businesses move loosely connected activity to a more structured approach. The change isn't driven by increased spending, it's driven by clearer understanding of what works and why. In our work at 25/8, we map digital capability across progression. This helps make sense of where a business is currently operating and what's required to move forward. At an early stage, a business may have established an online presence. There's a website, some level of social media activity, and an effort to be visible. This is an important step, and it creates the foundation for everything that follows. However, there's often limited visibility over how that presence connects to customer behavior. As the business progresses, activity tends to increase. New channels are explored, content becomes more frequent, and different approaches are trialed. While this can create momentum, it can also introduce a complexity. Without a clear structure, it becomes difficult to distinguish between what's most effective and what's simply consuming time. Add AI into the mix here, and we're just creating noise. A shift begins to occur when the business starts to understand the relationship between its digital activity and its results. There's greater clarity around where customers are coming from, what influences their decision, and how different channels contribute to the overall journey. Decisions become more deliberate and effort becomes more focused. This progression is less about doing more and more about understanding more. Why does this gap persist? It's easy to assume that the solution lies in learning more about marketing techniques or staying up to date with new platforms. But in practice, the underlying challenge is more closely related to capability. Many businesses have not had the opportunity to develop the skills required to view their digital activity as part of a broader system. Social media, websites, email, and advertising can be treated as separate tasks rather than interconnected elements of a single experience. Measurement also presents a challenge. It's common to track metrics that are visible and easy to access, such as likes, these superficial metrics, while having less confidence in interpreting metrics that are more closely tied to business performance. Decision-making is then shaped by that limited visibility. When outcomes are unclear, it becomes natural to rely on instinct or to respond to what others are doing. Over time, this can lead to a pattern where effort increases without a corresponding improvement in results. And I see this all the time. It feels like people are on the hamster wheel and I must be doing this. I've got to be doing more content. I've got to be on social media. And they feel almost in a trap and a cage to their social media channels without really understanding what it is that they must do and how they should talk to their customers and whether or not it's working. So how does this change when a strategy is created? When you begin to approach digital activity more intentionally, a number of shifts tend to occur. The first is a clearer understanding of where customers are coming from. Rather than relying on assumptions, there's a conscious effort to gather and interpret data. Over time, patterns begin to emerge. The second is a more complex view of the customer journey. Attention moves beyond individual touch points to consider how people move from initially becoming aware of your business through to them sending an inquiry or ultimately making a decision to purchase from you or engage you. Measurement becomes more focused. Metrics are selected based on their relevance to outcomes rather than just visibility. This creates a stronger link between activity and performance. With that clarity in place, it becomes easier to concentrate effort. Channels that contribute meaningfully to results receive more attention, while those that do not can be reconsidered or automated. The process is ongoing. It involves testing, learning, and refining over time. We tend to work in sprints of 90 days. The aim isn't perfection, but a steadily improving understanding of how the business grows. There are a few questions that can help you understand where your own digital capability currently sits. You might consider whether you have a clear view of which channels are generating customers, or whether that understanding is still forming. It could also be useful to reflect on what would happen if your current level of activity paused for a period of time. Would your pipeline continue to move, or would it slow significantly? Another perspective is to think about recent customers and the path they took before choosing to work with you. How visible is that journey, and how well do you understand the moments that influenced their decision? Finally, there's value in considering what you're measuring and why. The metrics you focus on will shape the decisions that you make. Digital tools have created an extraordinary opportunity for small businesses. Social media has enabled us to connect with our customers at scale in ways that we weren't able to do so before. At the same time, that accessibility means that visibility alone is no longer enough to create an advantage because it's hugely competitive. The businesses that are seeing consistent results are those that have taken the time to understand how their digital activity connects to their outcomes. They're making decisions with greater clarity and focusing their effort where it matters most. This is something that can be developed. It's not reserved for large organizations or specialist teams. It's a capability that grows over time with the right focus. It just takes a bit of time to work on it. And if you're looking for a structured way to understand where you are today and what to prioritize next, that's exactly the work that we do at 25/8. You'll find more information in the show notes, including a diagnostic tool that will help you pinpoint exactly what you can focus on. As AI becomes more embedded in how businesses create and distribute content, the volume of digital activity will continue to increase. It's becoming easier to produce articles, posts, emails, and campaigns at a speed that was not previously possible. While this creates opportunity, it also introduces a new level of noise. Customers are now exposed to more messages more often across more channels. In that environment, visibility alone becomes less meaningful. What begins to matter is the clarity behind what you're saying, who it's for, and how it connects to a genuine need. Intention becomes the differentiator. The business that takes the time to understand their audience, shape their message, and align their digital activity with a clear strategy are the ones that will stand out, even as the volume around them continues to grow. As the digital world becomes louder and more accessible, the advantage will not come from doing more. It will come from understanding what matters and acting with intention. And as Peter Drucker once said, there is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. With AI tools, you don't need to learn how to do social media, and you don't need to be putting AI created content out at scale. You are best placed to deeply understand your customer, their needs, and be intentional about how best to connect with them. Thanks for making time for this podcast this week, and see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to Make Time, a business podcast by 25/8. If you like the show, please take a moment to write a review and feedback on what you'd like to hear next. If you never want to miss an episode, hit subscribe or follow on your favourite listening channel. If you want to get even smarter, join our newsletter, community, or take one of our programs. Links down below. See you next time.